Strong looks different for each of us, and it's time to put focus on our unique journeys that get us there. This space created weekly is for athletes to improve their mindset in order to better navigate challenges that come up in sport and in different seasons of life. On this show, we ask the questions that lead to better answers and have the conversations that truly matter. This is the Becoming Your Strong podcast. Hey, you guys, welcome back to another episode of the Becoming Your Strong podcast. I am just thrilled to be alive after what was an insane weekend in DC for the HYROX America's Championships. It was full of all the things: physical, mental, emotional highs, lows. Today, I'm currently experiencing what it feels like to have knees that don't work or bend. So if you would like a good laugh, go head over to my Instagram and look at my latest reel. I have real life footage of me crawling downstairs. It was such an insane weekend, and that's actually where I want to focus the time and intention today, is just downloading on thoughts of everything that occurred and some things that specifically stuck out to me, some lessons, some moments, just all the things, because I feel like there are so many wonderful things that sometimes we miss that come out of race weekends because we're just so swept up in the travel and the results and then getting back to life. Like, hopefully through me reflecting on some of these things allows for you to reflect on, if you went this past weekend, just some things that maybe you didn't acknowledge, or just in the future, what that reflection process looks like for you. But I do want to start off with the Becoming Your Strong moment, and it's for two gals that I just admire and look up to in this sport. I want to give you guys just the biggest shout out, because it's been such a blessing to not only have these two women come onto the podcast to share their story and to just share where they're going next, to basically claim like, hey, like, this is going to happen for me. It's been amazing to watch it happen and to be able to cheer them on. So we just last week had, was it last week? No, it was a couple weeks ago. See, that's where my brain is at. It's truly a Monday, guys. I don't know what day or week it is anymore. But a couple weeks we had Chris on the podcast, and I loved hearing her story, and I could feel just through the computer her grit and her fire to do something big at DC. And while she didn't get a chance to claim a spot for Sweden, at least for the Elite 15 individuals, just the strength and the fight that I saw in her, just how she raced, how she showed up, it was clear as day that like she was a completely different person taking the race course than what I've seen in the last handful of times that I've seen her race. She's always been such a joy with like the biggest smile on her face, and she still had that, but it came almost like with this swagger and this confidence, and just like you can tell she wanted to be there. She wanted to fight. And as a fellow athlete, that is something that I hope to step into one day. I think I've had some moments of that here and there, but this was just on a very different level, and I admired it so much. And she ended up hitting a top 5 time and getting a PR, and then she came back the next day and freaking crushed it with Alondra. And that race was just as fun to watch them too. Like, we won't go into all of the crap that happened with Alondra over the weekend, but like, my goodness, like, did they come in with just so much fire to prove that they deserve to be there and that they're not finished, that they're just getting started. So it's going to be such a blessing and so much fun to watch them take the stage in Sweden in a couple of months from now. The other person I wanted to shout out was Kat. She's also been on this show, and I've shouted her out a couple of times now, but what I really enjoyed about Kat's performance this weekend is that she had a not so ideal performance on Saturday and then came back with total just like I don't want to say a change in perspective, but just like she showed up differently on Sunday with her partner Morgan, and they did such an incredible job racing together and hitting a brand new fastest time for themselves. Like I reached out to her and I said, hey, like, keep your head up, lean into this, just trust that there's something bigger for you on the way, and that this experience is exactly what you needed to build you. And by the time she even reached back out, it was like, I appreciate you. My headspace is already there. Like, it wasn't my day. And to be able to accept that and then just say, okay, on to the next thing, and to go crush it and show exactly what she's capable of. Like, it was so cool. So just overall, like, I've been very blessed to have some incredible women on the podcast in the last couple of weeks to months. And I hope to continue to do that. But just these two women in particular, and just they deserve so much credit and so much love for what they did, not just physically, but what they executed mentally and emotionally. So I wanted to shout both of those girls out. But let's talk about my weekend and what all went down. So I'll back up to Wednesday of last week. And I get off the treadmill after doing my speed intervals, and my foot doesn't feel quite right. And I'm like, okay. Go and do some recovery protocols on it. And then it started to get worse as the day went on. And I was like, uh-oh. Hopefully this is like we take some fish oil, we get some really good sleep, again, do what we can to manage it. And by the time that Sunday rolls around, everything is just fine. It was anything but that. And each day it was like the pain had traveled or had gotten worse, or I was terrified that I had a stress fracture and I was like wondering if I should even go. My biggest fear is to go and do something knowing that I'm in pain and potentially somewhat injured, and then hurting myself even more. Like, I coach against that, I preach against that. But it was a tough thing for me to navigate because I had never experienced this sort of pain before. And I talked to a couple of different PTs. I consulted an orthopedic specialist. All of them believed that I should be okay, but that I just need to take the appropriate amount of rest for the next couple of weeks in terms of running goes. So I decided to continue on with the trip. And I told myself, hey, if it comes down to it, on Sunday, like if the morning of or even during the race, if something is not feeling right, that I'm going to pull the plug, and both of my partners know that. So that was something in the back of my mind that wasn't necessarily enjoyable, because I felt like it was just a limiter and a dampener on the weekend. So that wasn't very fun. I also too had to do a late change of partners. Unfortunately, one of the ladies that I coach had someone pass away in the family. And so she had to be there and support her family, which is the most important thing to do in that moment. So I was lucky enough to get to coach her on Saturday, and then she had to fly out before our race on Sunday, which I'll tell you about that race here and how all it went down and who filled in and just how much freaking fun it was. But, there was definitely some sadness from that, because racing with her was an opportunity for me to really challenge myself in a lot of different ways, simply because she's an absolute badass. She can run like hell, and it was going to really help me build some character. So there was selfishly some reasons. There's also the reason of like getting to race with the people that you coach is just so damn special, and vice versa. Like the relationship, for example, that I have with Olivia, they're my favorite races, because the chemistry and the excitement to share that together is so wonderful. So that was a slight bit of a bummer going into it. And I have also wanted to try and qualify for Sweden. Like ever since I went to Phoenix, I was like, this would be really cool to actually do at a world level. And I've never honestly really traveled internationally like that before. And I think that this could just be really good for me as a human being to go and see other parts of the world and actually make a vacation out of it. And my only other chance that I had was with Kevin, and not to say that him and I can't, do this, but it's my very first doubles race ever in mixed, and the age group that we're in and the competition that was there, like it was a very deep filled to try and compete against. And so the chances of us actually pulling it off was very, very slim, which put a lot of like expectation and pressure on me, at least, to try and make something happen that I just wasn't sure if was even possible in the first place. So all of that to say, that is what I was mentally and physically dealing with going into the weekend. And I knew that this wasn't going to be the same rainbows and butterflies that I experienced in Phoenix. So it happens, right? And not every race weekend is a great or perfect or ideal race weekend. In fact, it never is. So I at least was level set mentally there. But I honestly went into the weekend focused on what could potentially happen to my health when it comes to my foot. I was also just like only focused on the races, not necessarily like the experiences and the people that I get to be around, and the fact that I was going to Washington, DC for the first time and could see all these cool places that like I've never seen before in my life. And the thing that got me to realize that there's so much more going on than just those things was Saturday, I didn't race at all. I flew in on Friday, and Saturday I got to put on the best cap of all, which is the coaching cap. And for the entire day, both near and far, I just got to be a freaking coach. And I can't tell you how long it's been since I've just been able to do that. And I know that sounds weird because I am a coach, and I do that every day, and I train clients and I teach classes. I do all those things, but there's a different feel to it every time I travel for these race weekends, because typically I have to try and manage, me warming up and racing. And half the time I sometimes don't even get to see some of the athletes that I coach and get to cheer them on during their races. And this was a special experience where I got to do that the whole damn day, not just in DC, but from afar. I had people racing kind of all over the place. And so just to get the phone calls and the texts and to just be there in person and to have the chance to just connect with these people that I love so dearly, it was absolutely amazing. And it was the biggest gift of all. And I needed that. I needed that more than any sort of race or perfect outcome from a race. I needed the chance to just step into what I honestly love, which is just being there for my people and watching them push past limits and being able to just see the light bulb go off and just see them fight for themselves. Like, there is nothing more special than that. So I wanted to bring that up because, again, I think we go into these big weekends just totally focused on what we need to do to execute in order to get a specific outcome. But rarely do we ever think about the other things that we're gaining as a byproduct or the other things that we're really excited about. Like, now that I've taken a chance to step away from it, like, I'm excited about the fact that I got to share a room with Amy, and I've never had the opportunity to actually just go to dinner with her and walk around town with her and sightsee. Like, I have never been able to just have a conversation with her in person. It's always been over the phone or over text because of where we live. We live in completely different places. So there was just so many cool things, and I hope that you can take the opportunity now, at least in retrospect, to just really acknowledge those and look at those things and think of, wow, it was such an incredible weekend. Whether or not I had, the best races of my life or the worst races of my life, look at all that came out of it and the experiences that I got to have simply because I signed up for a race and I went to a new place and I just immersed myself in the environment. So just that little reminder there, just for now and for the future. But to fast forward now to Sunday. So when Amy officially told me that she was going to be unable to race, I had the option to go and look for some different partners or just pull out completely. And it has been 3 years now. I'm entering into year number 3 of me being an underdog athlete. And I absolutely love this human, to the freaking moon. Because she is the best cheerleader in the entire world. She is the person that supports everybody on this team. And she loves her place on the sideline doing just that and truly helping people execute to their best. She is just the perfect team mom ever. And so I thought about it, and it's how has it been that I've traveled out to your home out in Connecticut for almost 3 years now? And we have yet to do anything race-wise together. And so I reached out to Jess, which is Kevin's wife, and I was like, hey, here's the situation. Do you want to race with me? And she was like, abso-freaking-lutely. And the thing that's hilarious about this, you guys, is like her and I would say, like, she used to do a lot of like longer distance racing type stuff. Like she's really good at like the Spartan Beast and ultras and things of that sort. That's how she sort of got into the hybrid racing world in previous. But we've always like we connected because of DECA, right? And I would say arguably what we're probably better at now is DECA. And we are doing our first race together, not only 3 years from me joining the team, but it's in a freaking HYROX. Like, it was just, we both looked at each other and it was so funny. But the morning of the race, she has this massive cold that she's still dealing with, like just migraine, headache. She's just trying to manage. I have this foot thing. Her and I are looking at each other at the starting line of like, there is zero pressure expectation right now to do well in anything. Like, we just want to enjoy that we're getting a workout in, that we get to share the space together, that we get to work together and communicate in a way that we've never had to do before. And we had such a freaking blast. Like, honestly, it went so much better than what I expected because, again, I didn't know how my foot was going to respond. We had no idea how her lungs and just with her congestion, we had no idea how any of that was going to play out. So literally lowest of lowest expectations. And it was so fun to have that different dynamic with her of like, we're cheering each other on in different ways. We're strategizing. Literally, we had no strategy. We were just like, okay, at least for this first one, I'm going to start. And then for the rest of it, like, we're going to just go based off of feel. Like, it truly, for the hour and 22 minutes that we were out there together, just enjoying life, we were just so present. And that was so cool, was just to be in a race that like had nothing to do with the outcome. It just had to do with just like being fully immersed in the present with the people that you love. And it got me to really appreciate not just to race to have a specific outcome or to test yourself, but to race just for the joy of it. Like, now I'm like, you know what? I want to find those people that I just genuinely enjoy spending life with. And I want to ask them to just race for fun without any sort of obligation of what happens on the other side. Because what happened this weekend was just nothing but laughter and true joy. And it was a breath of fresh air. So while it was the race that I not necessarily like wanted, and when I say wanted, of course I wanted to race with Jess. There's no one else that I would have wanted to have as her replacement. But I selfishly wanted to be pushed, right, in a completely different way with Amy. While it wasn't the race that I wanted from that perspective, it was 100% the race that I needed to remember why what I do is so special and why racing is so special, why it's such a gift. And it doesn't always have to be about the outcome, about the push, about the time. It could just be about, I'm going to enjoy doing what I love with who I love. So Jess, thank you so much for taking on the course with me. We did so much better than we expected. And I'm so proud of us and so grateful that we got to share our first race is something that, you know, is not necessarily our wheelhouse, but we freaking made it our wheelhouse and we spread so much sunshine together on that course. So my second race was a few hours later, and this was the race with Kevin. And this was honestly this was a turning point for me because my foot actually during the race with Jess felt really good. And I was like, okay, like I think I got this. I think I could give what I need to give today in order to put up at least a decent showing for the race with Kevin and I. Like, I'm not super worried about having to quit halfway because my foot's about to fall off. Like, the burpee broad jumps and the lunges hurt the worst because of the plantar flexion and bending my toes back towards the bigger part of my foot there. Like, that does not feel good right now. So those, especially with for me, it was pro weights. For Kevin, it was open weights. That definitely added a significant layer to the equation. But I, again, just looked at that race of like, okay, either I go into it with no expectations and I just like let it fly, or I go into it with like, I want to see what I can give and see if Kevin and I can put up a qualifying time to actually earn a ticket to Sweden together. Because him and I are like the only people that traveled out there that weekend that didn't have one. We were one of very few that didn't have one yet. So I wanted to see what I could do. I took the ladder. I wanted to see if Kevin and I could really compete. And I got dragged, to be quite honest. Not the whole time, but a good portion of the time, especially during the first part of the race. I was not leading the running. I was getting pulled by Kevin, which was somewhat of a surprise, somewhat not a surprise. I honestly didn't know what exactly was going to happen because it was my first doubles race, like truly actually trying to go for it. And it doesn't really feel good when you feel like you're being a slow poked and you're the weakest link and you're getting dragged. So mentally I had to overcome that and just stick with like trusting that what I was doing, the paces that I was running at and the effort that I was giving out, like it was exactly where I needed to be to not tip over in order for us to really perform on that back half and to actually cross the finish line together. But I wanted to point out something specific. At some points of the race, you are just in pain. Like whether it's your lungs that are ready to give out, it's something in your body that feels like it's on fire and ready to fall off. Like we all experience that pain and our mindset starts to weaken in some way, shape, or form as a byproduct of that. And I think it was earlier that morning I was listening to something that Grayson Kilgore had talked about. And I think it was through the Perform Better platform. I don't know if it was a podcast, but either way, I consumed it in the form of a highlight reel. And he said something along the lines around, pain is not something that is unknown to us athletes. Like it's a byproduct of what we do. And so if you learn to make friends with the pain and just accept that it's there, that you're able to mentally cope with it better. And so he said, like, I always say, hello, pain. There you are, my long lost friend. He sees it for what it is and doesn't see it for anything that it's not. And he tells himself that, you know what, I've been through this before and every single time I've survived on the other side and it's been just fine. So I've been waiting for you. You're here. It means that, we're doing something that's important and I'm just going to write it out. And I thought that was so powerful and such a fun and different perspective of, I've always said, like, be ready to experience the pain so that when it happens, you're not surprised, but to actually talk to it and befriend it during a race, like that really stuck with me. And so in the moments where I started to feel that, I had a Grayson conversation in my head about pain. And I thought it was so cool. And it honestly worked. And I even remember saying to myself, like, you've hurt way worse than this. Like, I just looked at something random in front of me and I'm like, you've hurt way worse than this. And I got really present and I'm like, oh, like, I'm fine. I'm just listening to the thoughts about, oh my gosh, here we go. It's going to start to hurt. You're going to start to slow down. You have so much more race to do. Like, no. Just pause for a second and say, hey, you've hurt more than this. Like, you're fine. Like, you're working. It's fine. You're going to make it. And it just brings so much like realness and actual reality to the situation. So I wanted to point that out as something that was really cool. And we ended up crossing the line at 102.59, which is, I will say, fairly impressive. When you look at the build of Kevin and I don't come from a running background. Kevin's definitely ran for longer in the last few years. Like, he definitely has a little bit more of a sustained running background than I do. But, our makeups overall as athletes and what we're strongest at, it's not HYROX. At least not yet, right? Like, we're not as competitive in HYROX as we are in DECA together. So the fact that we were able to pull that off, nonetheless, that was my first time ever running doubles in that capacity. I was proud. And unfortunately, that proudness got overlooked once I saw everything else that was going on around me, which is, it's so cool to be a part of a team that is amazing. And you're like, wow, that's what's possible, and always pushes you to be better. But it's also equally just as hard to watch all of your friends get PRs and get flags and stand on podiums and get their qualifying times to Sweden. And you are the only person or two in the crowd that does not get to experience that. Especially when you go to other races and you do get to experience that, right? Like that little dose of humble pie, while it's necessary, doesn't mean it always tastes good going down. And by no means did I expect to be on top of a podium this weekend. Zero expectations around that. I'm very level-headed there. But there definitely was a part of me that was hoping that I could pull out something really cool with one of my race partners, to where we did have the option to potentially go to Stockholm if we really wanted to. And that didn't happen. And so I got to sit there and watch other people have those moments. And I felt the negative side of comparison hitting me. And if we know anything about comparison, it's just simply the fact that it is truly the thief of joy. However, there's also another side of comparison that can be really helpful, and I'll talk through that. But I had to, in that moment when I felt like my joy was being taken from me around what it is that I actually just accomplished, considering the circumstances, I had to go back to the why I even signed up for this race, or why I even decided to step into HYROX this year. Like, yes, in a previous year, I randomly did a team relay and I had some fun, but I've never had any interest in doing a solo. I've been freaked out to do a doubles. Like I've tried to avoid it like the plague, honestly. So I went back to why I started this, and I went back to the moments when I decided that I was going to do this. And I think through from there to where I'm at now, all the things that I've done, all the different ways that I've improved physically and mentally to get to this point. And I don't know if it's necessarily unheard of for someone, who has the same sort of like athletic fitness as I do and the same amount of experience. I don't know if it's necessarily unheard of for me to put down the results that I'm putting down. But despite all of that, like the bigger picture of this all is that I stepped into discomfort. I stepped into doing something that I genuinely was terrified of doing. And what I found on the other side of it is that I have loved my times out there. I've genuinely had a really, really good time. And B, it also showed me a little bit of just what I want. And how cool is that, right? Is when you maybe have something that doesn't go your way, or maybe the comparison is really hitting you hard. Isn't it cool that that you have something to show you like, I guess I really do want this. And to take that and put that almost as like ammunition in being like, okay, like, not that I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired of having circles ran around me. I mean, I am sick and tired of having circles ran around me, but like to take that ammunition and use it for good, to come back and feel that fire of like, okay, I really want this. Like that's really cool. And I think that's where the cool side of comparison comes in, right? Is yes, it can be the thief of joy if you allow it to, but it also can show you exactly what it is that you want and where you want to go next. And it can teach you lessons about like, I noticed that I talk to myself in this way and I don't necessarily like that, or where is that coming from? Let's dig in a little bit deeper about that so I can learn more about myself. That is the best side of comparison. And I want to leave you guys with this quote for today, because when I was stuck in the comparison there for the last, 24 hours, when I read this, it made my heart happy and it made me so excited for the future. Patience is the calm acceptance that things can happen in a different order than the one that you have in your mind. How powerful is that? Patience is such a gift. It is such a skill to try and build. I talked about it a lot this week with Amy. I talked about it with some of my podcast guests of like how do you build your skill of patience? And it's something you got to work on every single day. But just the idea that like in your head, you can accept that things might not be happening in the order that you want, but they're going to happen in an order that you need, doesn't that make you feel so at peace that you can allow for things to come through in your life and be totally okay of that and trusting of that, of just knowing that this is exactly where I'm supposed to be? I'm supposed to feel this way. I'm supposed to experience this loss. I'm supposed to experience this win. Like, just to know that the order in which things are happening in your life, it's meant to be, and it's for a reason, and it's up to you to see that and to see what those reasons are and lean into that. Not every day, not every training session, not every race is going to go in the way that you hoped. But if you're able to see that, wow, this is exactly what it is that I needed, again, you follow that path and you're going to find that you're exactly where you're supposed to be. And that might be better than what you ever imagined. Thank you guys so much for showing up for you today. I hope that this longer podcast resonated in some way, shape, or form. And again, it inspires you to go and reflect on your weekend. But I am going to do my best here to round up some incredible athletes that I got the chance to see take the floor this weekend to hopefully come join us on the podcast in the upcoming weeks. But until then, you guys, I will see you all for another episode of Becoming Your Strong. See you then.